it's Shaylin, and I recently did a review on the Aldrich method. In this review video, I basically go over whether or not it's busty or plus size friendly, and the Aldrich method did pretty well in my scoring system that I created. Now there are some things that I mentioned in the review video that I want to further comment on here. So the first thing is that there are two measurements that require a standard size, or so it says in the instructions, and those standard sizes are included in the chart here. Now as you can see, this chart isn't all encompassing, and I do mention that in the video that if you are outside of this chart range, then you are almost SOL. And I say almost because for the Armscye Depth measurement, you can take that on your own. Have someone help you take this measurement because it is a difficult measurement to take. Basically, the Armscye Depth measurement is measuring from the nape of your neck down to just underneath your armpit. But you are measuring that from the center back line. And that's why I say it's hard to take it yourself, because you will need to make sure that this is a straight line down and that the Armscye depth is at the right point. You can take 3 fingers, put it underneath your armpit here, and your partner is going to measure from the nape of your neck here down to where this point is, the 3rd finger. That's your Armscye depth. It's difficult for me because I'm busty, but it may be difficult for you for any other reason. So I also recommend using a chopstick or some sort of stick to go and put under your armpit, hold it with your arm, and have your partner or someone measure from the nape of your neck down to where that stick ends. So that's how you take your Armscye depth measurement. You're not SOL there. What I thought originally you were SOL on was the dart width measurement. And basically I went and did a lot of research and a lot of Googling, and I found only one way that addressed the dart width measurement. It used some trigonometry, and it basically uses the dart manipulation theory, which is where you close a dart and you open up another dart, that dart angle should be the same, and you're basically using some trigonometry to find the new width of that dart. Now, I tried this method and it was completely wrong. I ended up with a dart width that was twice as big than it should have been, and I realized that the math doesn't make sense because it only works if the bodice is already created. Since you have to use the dart width measurement to do the rest of your draft, which is the shoulder slope, the Armscye, and everything else, it kind of skews the rest of your pattern. So I thought maybe we need to go simpler, and I decided to go back to the Aldrich method, study that size chart, and I noticed there was a pattern in the size chart, which is adding 0.6 centimeters for every size. This reminded me of how the Natalie Bray method also had a size chart that had a pattern on it with the dart width measurement. So I have included this chart here for you, and included both the Aldrich and the Natalie Bray dart width measurements that I've extended myself. In green is what is actually on their size charts, and then everything after that is what I've calculated for you. Hopefully I'm not overthinking it and this chart works for you, because I had to take a step back after doing all of that trigonometry and kind of realize that I was thinking with a standard brain where a 1/2 inch is actually pretty big, but a 1/2 centimeter isn't as big at all. So hopefully it doesn't expand your bodice as much as if we were using inches. Now that we've got all of that out of the way and you've taken all of your other measurements, let's begin with the Aldrich method. The first point we'll make is at the top left of the paper, point 0. From point 0, make a line straight down 1.5 centimeters to point 1. At point 1, continue the line straight down using the Armscye depth plus 0.5 centimeters and mark point 2. From point 2, square across using your half bust measurement plus 5 centimeters. Mark this point 3. Square up and down from point 3. This is going to be your center front. From point 3, square up your armscye depth plus 2 centimeters plus another 0.5 centimeters for every size above size 14. I've made a little chart here to make it a little bit easier so you don't have to do the math. You're going to do your armscye depth plus whatever notated here. Back to point 1, measure down using the nape to waist measurement, marking 0.5. Then square across to intersect the center front, marking 0.6. Back at 0.5, measure down using the waist to hip measurement, marking 0.7. Square across to the center front line, marking 0.8. This line is your hip line. Now, take 1/5 of your neck size, subtract 0.5 centimeters, and then square a line to the right of 0.0 to your new 0.9. From here, draw your neck curve connecting 0.1 to 0.9. From 0.1, measure 1/5 of your armscye depth measurement, subtract 0.7 centimeters, and then mark 0.10. Square about halfway across the back. From 0.9, take your shoulder length measurement plus 1 and draw your shoulder line, making sure to touch the line from 0.10 at the end. So at this point you may need to move your ruler a little bit just to make sure that you have it ending at the line at 0.10. This is your shoulder line. Find the center of that shoulder line and mark 0.12. On 0.12, mark a dotted line squared down. From 0.12, draw a line that is 5 centimeters long, making sure that you are angling to the left 1 centimeter of the dotted line. This new line that you drew is now the center of the back dart. Draw a dart that is 1 centimeter wide, making sure the dart legs are the same length. I did this by going to 0.12 and then marking 0.5 on each side and then drawing the dart legs. And then right here you see that the dart leg goes past the shoulder, so I just adjusted my shoulder slope here. From 0.2, mark 0.14 at half your back measurement plus 0.5. Square up to line 10, marking 0.15 where it intersects. Find the center of that line, 2 to 10, and mark 0.16. Now find the center of line 2 to 14 and mark 0.17. Square down from 0.17 with a dotted line to 0.18 at the waistline and 0.19 at the hip line. From 0.4, measure left 1/5 of your neck size minus 0.7 centimeters. Mark 0.20. From 0.4 again, measure down 1/5 of your neck size minus 0.2 centimeters and mark 0.21. Draw the neck curve connecting 0.20 to 21. At 0.3, square left using half of your chest measurement plus half of the dart width, marking 0.22. Square up. Now find the center of line 3 to 22 and mark that point 23. From point 23, square down with a dotted line to point 24 on the waistline and point 25 on the hip line. 2.5 centimeters below point 23 is your bust point, or point 26. Draw a line from point 20 to 26. From point 20, draw a line using the dart width measurement and mark point 27. Connect points 26 and 27. This is your neck shoulder dart. From point 11, mark a point 1.5 centimeters down to point 28. Square to the right about 10 to 15 centimeters to point 29. From point 27, measure the shoulder length measurement touching the line from 28 to 29 at the shoulder point. Again, you may have to move your ruler up and down a little bit just to get that angle and that measurement correct. Mark that point 30. Measure the distance between points 3 to 21 and divide by 3. Using that measurement, square up from point 22 and mark point 31. Find the center between 14 and 22 and mark at point 32. Square down from 32 with a dotted line to point 33 on the waistline and 34 on the hip line. Angling 45 degrees from point 14, mark a point using the chart I put here. I marked in yellow my guesstimated figures for the larger sizes since those weren't provided. As you can see, there was a little bit of a pattern, so I figured and hoped that this works. Now angling 45 degrees to the left of point 22, mark a point again using the chart. Draw the armscye by connecting points 11, 16, 32, 31, and 30. Okay, we're taking a break right here so I can talk about the waist shaping. There weren't really any instructions on how to distribute the waist shaping. All it shows you is an example of 12 centimeters of waist shaping. And so what I did was I took a little tip from the bunka method and I created a little chart of percentages of how each part needs to be shaped. Before you do anything, the book does recommend to add 3 centimeters to your waist measurement before you subtract it from your bust. And then from there, distribute the waist shaping using the percentages provided here. Alright, so back to the draft. We're going to work on the top first and then the bottom of the bodice. The back dart point is point 17. Using this chart, measure the dart width on the waistline, making sure that it's centered on the dotted line. Draw the waist dart. From point 33, measure the second dart width to the left, and then the third dart width to the right. Draw the new side seam. For the front dart, the dart point will be 2 to 5 centimeters below the bust point. If you have a larger bust, you'll want to go further away for the bust point. Use the last dart width measurement and mark it on the waistline, centering on the dotted line. Draw the front dart. Now, this is where I think most people should stop and just cut it off at the waistline and do your fitting with the bodice. And the reason I say this is because the Aldrich method assumes that your bust and your hips are about the same measurement, basically an hourglass figure. That could cause an issue if you have larger hips than your bust, but also I had a lot of changes that I had to make at the bottom portion of my bodice when I did mine. So I wonder if it's just better to create like a skirt block and then add it on to the bodice block. But that's just me. If you want to continue your Aldrich draft and finish it off, let's continue. For the back dart, the lower dart point will measure about 7 centimeters from the hip line. Complete the dart. For the front dart, the lower dart point will measure about 5 centimeters from the hip line. Complete the dart. And finally, at the side seams, using a curved ruler, draw a curve, tapering the side seam towards the dotted line at the hip line. And now I see that I flipped the back and the waist dart measurements on my bodice block, so ignore the fact that the back dart goes lower than the front dart. It should actually be the other way. Alright, that is the end of the Aldrich draft. All you have to do now is take your draft, make your muslin, don't forget your seam allowance, sew it up, and do a fitting. Don't forget that your first fitting will not be perfect, but hopefully all you have to do is maybe 1 or 2 alterations like me. I had to pinch out some of the excess at the waistline, and had I stopped at the waistline instead of continuing on, I wouldn't have to do any of the other alterations that I found. So if I were to do it all over again, I would stop at the waistline and I wouldn't even bother with the rest of it, because most of the time when I'm working off a bodice block, I would be using it for the top of the dress anyway, and I don't really need it for the skirt portion. Hopefully this helps you draft your own bodice block. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Happy sewing!